What is up, my MSPs? Guys, I'm really excited for the video today because if you're here, that tells me, based off our last video, that you are in a state where you have enough profitability in your current services to figure out how we are going to add on these additional services and products that we're so excited to start playing with, start giving to our clients, start showing value, making our lives easier, and just having fun with it. So before we have some fun, right, we got to talk about some process, right? We got to talk about how we're going to do this in a way to where everybody wins. The customer wins because it's a great experience. The employees win because it protects our margins, which protects our own livelihoods and how fun it is to work at our organization. It's going to be awesome because now it's going to mature our organization to have a bigger market and extend those lifetime values of our clients. This is something that none of your competitors are doing and is an instant differentiator, because when you go to market with something, you go to market with it with a vengeance. And not only that, is with economy of scale, we do this enough times, our margins grow enough to maybe where I start lowering my pricing so that I can win those deals from some of my competitors. You know, maybe it's one of their MSP clients, gets my foot in the door. That foot in the door means, hey, Mr. Client, why aren't we doing your MSP? So guys, that's what we want to tackle today. Let's figure it out. All right, so let's get this going. So last time, right, I mentioned that in any product development cycle, there's some really important things that we need to consider. Now, I avoided right there using the word KPI because there is some subjectivity anytime you decide, hey, are we going to add this offering to our current clients? Are we going to put it in our portfolio? Are we going to put it in our menus? Are we going to put it on our website? Right? All of those things. So let me go through those with you. 1, time to launch. 2, time to ROI. 3, capital investment. 4, number of deals that I will need to close to achieve ROI. And 5, market adoption. Now, I want to go through those a little bit with just a little bit of kind of a breakdown. So time to launch, right? This is simply how many days from start are we budgeting that R&D process to take to make sure we can sell a single instance, single unit, single SKU, right? Simply put, when am I going to see one of them have an invoiced, right? That's what we need to know, right? This allows us also to start putting some deadlines on these projects so that to make sure that we have an expectation of, hey, when are we going to get this done? When we're communicating to our vendors who we may be purchasing through these products or services through, hey, we need to get this to market by this day. Right now, you have the ability to work with that, you know, whoever you're purchasing it through, your clients, right? Especially if you have a client that's like, hey, I want this today. Now I have the ability to say, hey, can I conceivably get this to market that fast? Second, this is the big one, capital investment needed. So at the end of the day, how much money out of our pockets do we need to put forward to make sure that this product goes to market, you know, smooth as the sea, smooth as the lake, smooth as a baby's bottom, right? But whatever the smoothness grade that we're using, right? 8,000 grit sandpaper, right? We need to then understand, okay, just how much is coming out of our pockets, because I can't rob my managed service team because those clients need to be happy. I can't rob from my project team because I got enough work in progress that's going to keep us busy for the next few months, right? I can't, rob from my sales team because they need that new logo cadence that we have. So, right, we have to be able to say, what is it going to take to do it, and possibly supplement the people we bring in to help, right? Maybe I got to bring in an extra engineer or an extra sales rep or a contractor. So we got to know those things. And by the way, not a scary thing, and you'll see why in a minute. Time to ROI, right? What is the number of days, months, years that it will take for this product to go from investment to making us money? There's also a time to realization, which means when do I make my entire capital investment back and then profit off of that? So there's a little bit of disparagement there, but we're going to use it simply just as when do I start making my money back plus profit? And then number of deals closed to achieve this ROI. Now, this is an important one because as MSPs, not a lot of us, right? We may only have 20 clients on MSP agreements. We may only have 50 clients. We might have 500 clients, right? This is a reality check for a lot of us because if I am looking and my ROI is, right, let's just, if it's 9, 12, 15 deals and I only got 10 clients or 20 clients, right? Then that tells me that it's probably not a reality that I could actually get this. Or this might mean that my current target market, my TAM, target addressable market, maybe needs to be expanded. Maybe now there's a sales and marketing problem here to where maybe there's going to be additional marketing efforts or different marketing efforts and sales efforts to go after a different group of customers. This is super important for things like VCIO and cybersecurity, because you may have a target market right now where they don't care, they don't need it, right? One of the things that Alex and I talked a lot in our VCIO video is some of your clients don't need VCIO. They just don't, right? A 20-person accounting firm, they don't need it. So, right, if you have a bunch of those, right, maybe we need to have that conversation of if we're going to do VCIO as a service, right, as a consulting model, then I'm going to have to spend some money marketing and addressing that market. And then last but not least, the market adoption, right? Is this something that your customers even want? If you have 500 clients that are all within that market, go do some market research. Go talk to them. Go have an advisory council meeting with them. Hey, if we were to start selling this, would you guys be interested? And if enough of them say yes, right, that's a gut check. This is why I avoided the word KPI, because there's subjectivity to market adoption, right? And you could spend years and thousands of dollars to try to really figure this out. But for a lot of us, we don't have that ability, right? That capital investment just goes up to try to figure out these things. So, right, I really want us to focus on that whole aspect. Now, right, look, we're going to go to the whiteboard, and really what I want to, right, just as a re-emphasis, right, we've got the time to market, we've got time to ROI, we've got our capital investment, we've got our number of deals, right? This is a really important one. So we're going to focus on that. And then what is that market adoption, right? Do people actually want to buy this? So plain and simple, right? Let's look at this from a graph perspective. And I made this kind of pretty. Now, and I don't remember who I learned this from. I think this might have even been Paul Dipple, but there's this weird thing in our industry where there's this law of sevens. And I say law of sevens, don't quote me on this. This is just something I've even noticed in my MSP, to where any time that we decide to add a new product, a new SKU, a new line of service, there's going to be a level of effort where it's going to take anywhere between 5 and 7 times that I have to be committed to selling things in order to just start breaking even, start making a profit. And let's unpack this, right? Because there's a process to this. And that process I've kind of started to outline for you guys, just because, right, I love you guys and I want you guys to have some type of value from here, to where we need to understand what is actually happening. What are we doing? What are the things that Kyle's telling me that I can't just slap it on the menu? Here's what this process really needs to look like. So, right, first and foremost, and I don't know where it went. So, right, we're rolling with this high level, right? We need some level to know what's this going to cost. Now, I know a lot of you are going, Kyle, how am I going to know this? Well, we know how much our engineers cost. We could probably look at past efforts. We could probably do some guesstimates. We could probably look at our current savings accounts, right? We can go, hey, if we have, 500 grand in the bank, yeah, I'll throw 50 grand at it. I'll throw 20 grand at it. I'll throw 10 grand at it. But right, there's some level to where we have to understand, hey, what is this going to cost and what is the outcome? And this is an arbitrary question to ask. But right, at the end of the day, if we take the call that we just had, there's that thing that we need to ask ourselves of, is this even something we want to start? Do I have the ability to start this? And while yes, it's an arbitrary question, it is a question that we need to ask. If it is 10 grand, am I willing to do it? If it's 5 grand, am I willing to do it? If I say no to either of those, then I probably shouldn't start it to begin with. How much do we want to offer this service? Second, right, we want to assess needs from current clients, right? Have your account managers call their clients. Have your customer success reps call your clients. Have your tier 3s or your RMM teams go look at what the opportunities are. Is this something to where, and I don't want a gut feel from this, right, guys? I want objective data because we're spending capital money on this. We need to know how many at-bats do we even get from our current client base? Because if there's one thing we want to do is we want to avoid having to go after a new target market, go after new customers, go after basically a wide open sea in order to try to win our money back, right? And at the end of the day, when we find that opportunity, what is the expected return from all of these? Let's say we know our close rate, right? Maybe our account management close rate's like 30%. So if we identify 100 opportunities, then maybe we only have 30 deals that we could potentially win. Now that might be a good scenario, right? That might be an ROI, which, that's where that bar graph comes into play, right? Then we need to create a budget. If it doesn't have a budget, they're probably going to go over or it's never going to get finished, right? Deadlines and budgets get shit done. That's just how the world is. It makes us work smarter. It makes us work a little more efficient, and it makes us be accountable to getting things off the ground. Unlike my dad, fun little story. I grew up in a house where we didn't have door handles on a single door. Yeah, kind of weird, but the analogy or the metaphor works here because our house burned down in 2003. And when our house got rebuilt, we were so excited to move in that my dad basically said, screw it, let's move in. Well, we moved in, there was no doors. Just the front door and the back door. So what happened, right, is, the doors got hung. And my dad said, I'll put the door handles on. Yeah, and it's still to this day, there's no door handles. Kind of weird, right? But anywho, moving forward. So, right, moving forward. Then from here, we've identified the number of opportunities with our current client base. So what we want to do next is really understand, let's create that budget that we're going to invest, right? If we know we have 30 opportunities that we could potentially close with our current close rates, then I now am more comfortable spending that money and saying, here's how much you have. 50 grand may not sound bad anymore. 20 grand may not sound bad anymore. 15 grand may sound terrifying with a $1 per endpoint product. So, right, these are the scenarios that now will, before we make any investment and already get too far down the road, allows us to ask those questions before I pull the trigger with a vendor. Next, I always recommend this. Do some due diligence, guys. I know and I'm gonna have a lot of my friends not be happy I said this, but I know that one vendor that you love, great marketing, they're super friendly, they have the best swag. It just never hurts to do due diligence. At the end of the day, I've been burned before, even in my own practices, by selecting the wrong vendor just because, my buddy worked there, because I liked their marketing, because they took me out to a steak dinner. I've done it. Just going to say it. We need to always do some level of due diligence. And then at the end of the day, this is the fun part, right? We need to select something. Just pick it, go forward. And we've committed by this point, right? This creating budgets, right? Once we've created the budget and it's been signed off on, this is that point of no return, really, right? And when we hit that point of return, guys, we need to focus on that. That is where we just need to go. So if we selected a product, we have a time of day that we're going to get this done. And if we're going to go ahead and do all the due diligence, boom, don't even ask questions, just get it done and identify it. Then what we want to do is, right, we have that target market. We need to talk to our customer success reps. We need to talk to our account managers. We need to talk to our engineers and say, we probably need to pick 1 or 2 clients. Some of them may have a need that's immediate, and some of them we just may really like, and they need to be that beta client. Maybe you give it to them at cost. Maybe you give it to them significantly discounted. Maybe they really want it, and you're fortunate enough to where they'll pay full price to get it immediately. And if that's the case, guys, good for you. Not a lot of times do I see this happening. A lot of times I see us just go into deficits, let's be real. But right, if we're in that scenario, now we have a ground to stand on. And then what I want to do is select my resources from the fort. For those of you who've seen my videos, you know what that means. Fort is your finance, your operations, your revenue, and your tech teams. So right, these are those teams that are going to help us. And right, if you notice, I'm saying this very purposefully. I'm not saying just select the engineer that's going to be involved, because that is usually where the process breaks. We give it to just an engineer. We forget the lessons that something called Kaizen can teach us, which is everyone in the organization needs to be involved in selecting a new product, right? Finance needs to be involved because they need to know how to invoice it. They need to know how to reconcile it. Revenue needs to be involved because they need to know how to market. They need to know how to sell it. Obviously, operations needs to be involved because they need to know how to implement it. And our tech team needs to be involved. That way we have the cybersecurity and the internal IT to make sure that we have enough endpoints to sell if it's a procurement thing, or if it's an internal IT thing, right? How do I give it to the employees of my company? Then, right, training. I got to take the sales courses. I got to take the service courses. I got to figure out how to do it before I go into proof of concept. And this is right. For those of you saying that this doesn't happen, no, it needs to happen, or it does happen. You're just not accounting for it. From here, right, we start building out documentation and collateral. We start creating campaigns to sell to that target units, right? This is really that. How many deals do we need to sell at some point, right? We got to have our sales teams getting going and making sure that they're ready to capture it by that time, right? That ROI time that we talked about. Implementation with mentorship. This is a huge one because typically when we selected from this fort, the ops and tech guy were probably our tier 3 guys. Our revenue guy was probably our best sales rep. So if that was the case, we all know that doesn't scale. So we need to start implementing, doing these beta clients, doing these second and third iterations, and trying to get down to that tier 2, tier 1 level. That way we have the ability to start having economy of scale, right? This is the definition of economy of scale. And for those of you who don't think in that way, essentially economy of scale, for my audience that doesn't know this term, It's at the end of the day that my revenue can go up and my cost can go down. Again, revenue goes up and cost goes down. So if we think about that, right, that's what's happening in this, is that while we're getting more revenue with more deals closed, our costs are dropping because we've went from a tier 3 implementing this, or a senior sales engineer implementing or selling this, to that tier 1 doing it, or that sales rep doing it. So we always need to keep this in mind, that as we grow, we can't scale our businesses using high cost resources. So from here, right, QCing is important because our documentation may suck, our collateral might suck. We may have made a mistake since we're having tier 2, tier 1 guys take a whack at this now. Adjust that documentation when we QC. Don't just beat them over the head and knee jerk and say only tier 3 is going to do it going forward. We need that economy of scale, right? This is where reducing that senior staff is happening. That's where we monitor pricing and margin, right? When we get to that 4th, 5th, 6th deal, let's look at the math. Do we need to increase our price a little bit? Can we drop our price a little bit because it was easier than we thought, than what the sales team at whatever, or if it's a line of service, right, that we expected from that mentorship. And then, right, once ROI is achieved, building it into some QBR or account management process, because just because we got to ROI doesn't mean we want to take our foot off the gas. So getting back to my graph, right, and I think this is important now, is we can illustrate this pretty simply. And yes, I use pretty colors because, right, and for those that are colorblind, I apologize. Hopefully the shades that I selected, you can see the disparagement. Now, these colors represent some pretty easy things now that we've gone through the process, right? To get that first deal closed, right, I had to go through the whole process of due diligence. I had to select a vendor. We had to take training. So guys, really what we're trying to achieve here is understanding how that first deal and this graph, right, really starts to outline this ROI process and the discipline we need to have to selling a new service or product. So pretty simple, right? This graph is the deal number, right? The number of deals I've sold, the cost that it took us to implement that. And this red line is our target, meaning what is our target margin? So at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? We need to get it down to that level so that it's competitive, right? No one's going to undercut us. And 2, it's being done well. And 3, it's making the margin that I was expecting to make. So with this being said, this first deal is always going to be the hardest to get. And not only is it hardest to get, it's going to cost us the most, right? If you see that target line, right, this guy over here, we're way beyond ever achieving any type of profit because of the time we sunk in to just make this deal. So what we have to do over time is start to limit some of those resources. And right, kind of what we talked about, that right, that, you know, this could be that R&D time, that due diligence time, that this is I don't even know who's going to be our vendor at the end of the day. This is the project management. These are those strategy calls that we're having as a team, right? That fort that we're aligning, right? And then over here, right, this is that QC of that documentation and that continued training, right? We still may need a little bit and reference it, but right, eventually by the time we get to deal 4, now we just have our sales, our QC process, our engineering team, and our finance team going at it. Then finance at some point is going to be able to automate that reconciliation process. And then now our tier 3 guy is getting to a point where his time is starting to decrease and he's just efficiently handling that documentation, all into the point where we really just need limited sales and a limited service output in order to get that deal closed. So as you can see, there's a weird concept here, and I don't remember where I heard this, guys. Like I said, I think it was Dipple. There is something to this 7 number, where in our industry, for some reason or another, it takes about 7 times to start seeing an actual profit from these projects. And it may not be that for everything, right? Some might be 4, some might be 6, but we need to keep that in our head because it's a great way to do a quick gut check. And I did this at my MSP. I did this at all of my consulting companies and all of my engagements with my clients. I simply ask the question now, do you think we could sell it 7 times? Do you? Because if you don't think we can sell it 7 times, it's probably not even worth a discussion, right? It's a quick gut check. It's a quick sanity check. I actually love it because I don't have to spend time doing a bunch of math and market research. I just go, if we're not willing to sell it 7 times, guys, then we shouldn't sell it at all. Then it starts to make you ask those subsequent questions. So if there's one takeaway today, right, I really want you to start doing that in your own MSP. If you want to sell something, if you want to offer something to your clients, even if it's just a $2 per endpoint per month product, ask yourself, can I sell this to 7 of my customers? I guarantee you, everything will work better if we start acting that. Now, that's 7 times, right? That's time to start attaining a profit, but that's sometimes not ROI because we have all of this deficit that's compounded over the last, right, 6 iterations. So what you really want to figure out in that math is, when does this profit up here not only pay off that capital investment, but also now start bringing additional profitability into my organization? Could be 11 times, could be 13 times, hell, it could be the 8th time, because it's such a high dollar price of the product that its margin satiates enough of that capital investment. So right at the end of the day, guys, this is kind of that, not only the process, but the math that we have to figure out. Now, we can easily do these things in Excel. We can easily bring in some examples. If you would love a webinar where someone wants to give in a live session, maybe we handle it that way, where we take a live example and start figuring out what is the math and what is the project plan we need to put together in order to get to this ROI. Again, guys, I appreciate the time, right? And the biggest takeaway is, right, starting to think about, when we go into these processes, is there a project? Is there, and don't overthink it. Make a project plan inside of ConnectWise or whatever your PSA is. Go into something free like Monday or Asana and just put a project plan together and just call it, this is Acme MSP's product development process. Right, going back to it, right, just if you're interested, right, we have it as simple as figuring it out, who's the team that's going to help us, who's going to be taking the training, and right, all of these things are in here for you. But beyond that, right, at the end of the day, this is where you start to now deliver these products and these services. And granted, the first couple times, they're going to be bumpy, they're going to be messy, but we have now a strategy to ensure that that new offering and product is going to be at a level that we are proud of to offer. It doesn't cost us time, it doesn't cost us headache, it doesn't create stress, and also, most importantly, it doesn't add risk to the company, which is a huge one these days, and it also doesn't cause clients to walk out the door because you were so focused on the new shiny thing that you forgot that they were still there paying you high margin dollars. Guys, this will do wonders, as it will start creating accountability for your team to not only be able to create all the needs to sell your new shiny, but also the process to sell, implement, and collect. Right now, your finance team's not getting left in the dust. No longer will new products just sit on the shelves and half implemented at your clients that just become fragmented lessons of years past. I hope this helped, guys. As always, I appreciate your time and your eyeballs. Let's make sure we exceed expectations together. And guys, don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn so you can sign up for these bi-weekly webinars we are having to have any type of discussion on maturing your MSPs in different ways that aren't just operationally focused. It's been great. Everyone have a good rest of your week.